out what a title company does. The title side of our business determines who owns a property and guarantees your ownership with a title insurance policy. The escrow side acts as an independent third party, managing the transfer of money and documents between the buyer, seller, lenders, and others. Security Title has a management of real estate closings down to a science. Give us a call. We are here to help.
Parents, take advantage of FHP Health Center's Back to School Early Bird Special. Before summer gets too busy, make an appointment now to update your child's immunizations, PPD skin tests, and sports physicals. Call FHP Pediatrics. Most insurance plans accepted, including TRICARE, Medicaid, and self-pay patients. Call for an appointment. 671-646-5825. Press 1. Go to FHPGuam.com for more information. FHP, our island, your clinic.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, Jose, I got here just in time. I was about to burst out with the Second Amendment in the parking lot.
Oh, no.
Yeah, two days of no tall tales, the urge becomes almost irrepressible. But I got here just in time. So here we are, another whole week of tall tales, which is the day that Jose and I like the best because we got 5 whole days of tall tales ahead of us before we have to go into hibernation for another weekend. So today is the first day of the month, the first day of August. Boy, the older you get, the faster the years go by. My mental adjustment is up to about the middle of March, and here it is, the 1st of August. So on the first day of the month, I always read the rules of engagement for the show, because there are probably people that haven't been listening to the show before who probably would appreciate the rules of engagement. Right, Ben?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So here it goes. Listen to the radio talkers, read the blogs and blog comments in the papers, check out the conversations in the bars and coffee shops, and it soon becomes apparent that answers are more often abundant than questions concerning the important issues of the day. One of the functions of Tall Tales will be to state the questions for the answers that many seem so sure of, and then respond to those questions. Here are some of the answers that will be dealt with in the coming weeks, not necessarily in the order of their occurrence or importance. For instance, number 1, you can carry any gun anywhere at any time. 2, we are second-class citizens. 3, there should be term limits for senators. 4, the feds stole a fenadam from us. 5, the job of the Civil Service Commission is to protect employees. You get the idea. I've got 24 items on my list. I use that in case I run out of things to talk about, which so far has never happened.
Nope.
But it's my default list, and it's interesting things that we could always gravitate to. I put together a card every day that is based on who's doing what to whom here in the island, and of course I've got Jimmy and Cotney. But back to the rules of engagement. So I can discuss those, and if you have a question, you can call in, and you can furnish your own answers in addition to the 24. Answer number 0 is, Bob doesn't know what he's talking about. And we've got 00. Bob still doesn't know what he's talking about. And then for the guys that have been listening to the show for a long, long time, 000. Bob still don't know Jack. It's because I very seldom go to drive-through restaurants, Jose. So going on with the rules of engagement, the list is not to suggest that there aren't plenty of other interesting questions or answers to take up every day. There are, and they can be addressed. Usually serious and sometimes humorous, Tall Tales will examine current events, government and politics, and occasionally drift into history, culture, religion, law, and once in a great, great while, but only very, very cautiously, rumors and gossips. Tall Tales is structured, but can often entertain whatever callers want to discuss. Tall Tales is an issue-driven, fact-oriented, interactive talk show that invites audience participation. It has been the top-rated FM afternoon show in Micronesia. The Point is Pika's best radio station for 2022. Facts and no-nos. They say everybody knows that. Well, we've always done it that way. There's no doubt in my mind. No. How about a little analysis and some critical thinking? I don't want anybody to call in and preface their questions with, well, you know, everybody knows that. That is not facts. That's, if anything, it's a wish. Now, here's a caveat. Don't look for an abundance of common sense on Tall Tales. Your common sense is what tells you that the world is flat. Your common sense is what tells you that iron ships will never float and that heavier object that is heavier than air could never fly. Of course, common sense is to be valued, but not when it's a synonym for reverence for the status quo or timidity. While an instant and firm grasp of the obvious may occasionally be necessary, sometimes it's good to delve into the theoretical and occasionally examine the what-ifs. Common sense, or call it common sense, if it is. Right, Tom? One of our callers branded what someone said one time, common sense. Let's argue without being argumentative. Let's disagree without being disagreeable. Let's not play pin the tail on the talk show host. I look for provocative comment on Tall Tales. Tall Tales thrives on disagreement. Tall Tales has been rated the top-rated afternoon show in Micronesia. Usa dos na lenguaje. Ifino English dyan, ifino tomorrow lokwegi programaho. Programata. Guaho idon mijo host jan butlon, kasi fihon jan natalik jo. Tall Tales is the name, so look out for the tongue-in-cheek aspects of the show and listen for Jose's horn. Yeah, when you can't tell if I'm being serious or facetious, listen for Jose's horn, because he will alert you that although Bob sounds like he's being very serious, he's pulling your leg, so to speak. Sit back and enjoy Zemi Ikotny, the boxing card, the big halftime show, the seventh-inning stretch direct from Wrigley Field, and the home stretch from Churchill Downs. My job is to make the complex understandable and, if possible, interesting. Sometimes we comfort the afflicted. Sometimes we afflict the comfortable. Tall Tales is interactive, but no soapboxes allowed. No filibusters, no pin the tail on the talk show host either, nor hostile takeovers. Your humble, self-effacing, ever-modest host, well, that's me, is supported by the Tall Tales think tank to include a foreign policy guru, constitutional law and organic act expert, that's me too, a research survey and statistic bureau, and now a script writer for the 19th floor. Yeah, someday, you know, what I'd really like to do is go on location to the 19th floor, but I don't know. I'm not ready for the graveyard yet. That's a one-way ticket. Okay, next on the agenda here is Zemi Ikotny. Zemi Ikotny is my bilingual backwards play on words. Literally translated, Zemi Ikotny means press the meat. I turn it around so that it means meet the press. The big difference, though, is I'm so much better than Chuck Todd ever was. I'm still doing it. He got canned. So our Meet the Press is better. And what I do in Meet the Press is I get the editorial offerings, that is at least what appears in the news hole in our 2 daily newspapers, and I go through them with my blue pencil and mark them up like the former English teacher that I am. Errors in English usage, grammar, faulty theories, etc. And the survivor of the 2 oftentimes gets the coveted blue star. Last week, we brought in 3 Blue Star winners who were not professionals because the professionals have been letting us down so much. I would like to read the Post editorial, but the Post editorial board's been on strike for 2 months. The Daily News editorial board is kind of doing a sit-down strike. They're putting stuff in the news hole, but it's not really editorials. So when they used to write real editorials, and I'd mark that blue star in the editorial and hold it up to the camera here, I was told that if you were standing outside the door to the editorial boardroom of the winning newspaper, you could hear the champagne corks popping out there in the hall. It was that important to them. So with no further ado, I don't have to worry about the Post today because there ain't none. I go to the Daily News editorial, which exactly proves my point that the Daily News will put anything on the editorial page and label it an editorial. I'm waiting for the next thing I expect them to run will be the publisher's grandmother's recipe for oatmeal cookies, because most of the things they run have about that much impact. Here's a classic example of today's editorial in the Daily News. Our view, summer camps, good way to keep kids engaged, prepared for school sports. Oh, that's just journalistic dynamite, isn't it? Yeah, and the nice thing about it is I don't need to go through the rest of the editorial because the headline said everything there is to say. This is not an editorial. Daily News. Okay, let's take a look and see what we've got on the card for today. Now, once again, newcomers, I structure the program as though we were at a boxing match. And that's why when I go to the card, you hear Jose ring the bell. You know, in this corner, weighing 225, wearing white trunks, the pride of Jersey City. You know, if you've ever heard boxing matches on the radio. So I go through, and the card matches up people who are fighting with each other so we can see who's doing what to whom on our island here. I start out with, let's see, today I've got Nancy versus MSN. Last week it was the Post versus MSN. MSN, of course, Michael San Nicolas. Today it's Nancy Pelosi versus Michael San Nicolas. She really pulled a dirty trick on Michael today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. And then the ever-continuing story of Ko San Nicolas. Ko San Nicolas, the Cirujano. You know,
Magic fingers.
Magic fingers, yeah. So today it's victim versus Ko San Nicolas. You'll recall last week it was San Nicolas versus Cirujanos, followed by Rory versus Ko San Nicolas. Today it's victim versus Ko San Nicolas. Next we've got Neil, spelled Kneel, Neil Weird versus Your Island. Civil Service Commission versus the Mini Hatch Act, and then the Congressional Ethics panel again. They just can't seem to do anything right.
It's so many, they didn't see it.
Exactly. And then I've got Vanessa versus the Democrat Party. Now, in case you can't remember who Vanessa is, she is can come along with something that's right up there with 407 years ago, or When in the Course of Human Events, or
Wrong.
I regret that I have but one life to live for my country. Here's Vanessa's famous saying: It's impossible to separate our choice of whether and when to have children from every other choice in our lives. Yeah, so it's Vanessa versus the Democrat Party. I then wind up with, I didn't get it on the card today, but I've got another Jonathan Turley, if I get that far. Probably won't get that far. Okay, we start out with systemic racism, and you'll recall that systemic racism takes advantage. Let me go, since it's the first of the month, we may have new listeners here. Just let me go through it here again. On November 26th last year, Paul Zerzan, one of the really interesting characters that gets mentioned from time to time here on Tall Tales, wrote a letter to the Daily News. He said, the world is undergoing rapid change and cultures are experiencing traumatic shocks as cherished myths are destroyed by cruel realities. Guam is no exception. We are far enough into the 21st century to face a very ugly fact concerning the false basis concerning something very similar, as you were very central to the Chamorro belief system. And since it very much concerns feasting associated with holiday season, now is a good time as any to acknowledge the truth. There's no such thing as red rice. This is the truth. There's no such thing as red rice. The achoti-colored rice traditionally eaten on Guam is orange and not red. Calling it red rice for centuries does not make it red. It's orange, and a color wheel is not needed to see this. So please, let's stop looking foolish by calling it red rice, and let's call it by its proper name. Orange rice. All right. So we live in the cancel culture. So the facts here is that the rice is orange, but the narrative is that the rice is red. And if you follow the news, the local news, the international news, the national news, you know that anybody who would tell the truth in place of going along with the narrative is liable to be canceled. That's exactly what happened to Paul Zerzan, who had the temerity to say that it ain't red, it's orange. Here's the Daily News from Wednesday, December 1. Readers to Zerzan, leave our red rice alone. In a letter published Friday, he objected to calling red rice by that name, proposing to instead call it by the hue he sees most often, orange rice. And the whole article just beats up on him because he doesn't go with the narrative. So this is analogous to what we talk about on the show a lot. A lot of times, Jose and I are the guys who are telling the truth. And we tell the truth because the narratives oftentimes are poisonous and they need to be rebutted. And we know that there's a certain risk in telling the truth in the face of the narrative, but we're so brave, so fierce that nothing can intimidate us. We don't care what color the rice is, we're going to tell you it's orange. Okay, back to the card. A regular feature here on Tall Tales, of course, is the Public Law 36-34 part of the agenda. Today, of course, it's only Monday. I don't have any government agency that violated the open government law by publishing an improper notice of meeting. What I do have is the legislature, once again, publishing something showing that they really don't understand their own rules and they don't know what they're doing. There's a call to session on Monday, August 8th, and here's what they're going to do during the session. They start out with Roman numeral 14 vetoed bills. And after that, potential items for the agenda. Potential items. Now, you study the open government law, you will find there's no room for potential items. You publish your agenda. The items in the agenda must be described in such a manner as to put the public on notice of what you're going to be discussing. Well, they haven't figured out how to decide what their own agenda is.
They have intention, Bob. They
They
have potential.
They do.
They're just not real agenda items. Yeah.
Exactly. So they've got Bill 276, an act making appropriations for the operation of the executive branch. In other words, it's the budget. So they may or may not discuss the budget. And since that's the only item on the agenda, if they don't, then I have this mental image of the speaker calling the session to order, going through the Inifresi and the prayer and the songs and all that sort of thing, and then announcing, we have nothing on the agenda. Majority Leader, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Madam Speaker, I move to adjourn. There being no objection, motion granted. And that'll be it. And we're paying these guys $55,307 a year to do this kind of stuff. The budget is the most important thing they do every year, and it's only a potential item for the agenda. As a younger fellow would say, give me a break. Okay, now, first item on the card, Nancy Pelosi versus Michael San Nicolas. Let's take a short break here, and we'll come right back to Nancy versus MSN.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Joyce Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
Now, more Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. Spitting truth like watermelon seeds at a summer picnic. Call now, 888-TALK, 888-8255.
Okay, so here we go. Having a little trouble with my Facebook here. All of a sudden, I look at my screen and I see Joanne Matanani. Somehow I got yesterday's show instead of today's show, so I got to go. I guess I got to log in again. Give me a second here, fans, while I get back on Facebook. I hate to miss any of your comments on Facebook. It's a really important part of the show. Yeah, I'm just going to go forward here. Nancy Pelosi, congressional delegation visit Guam. A congressional delegation led by U.S. House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi stopped on Guam overnight and joined Delegate Michael San Nicolas for key briefings, but there was no mention of where the group would travel next. So here's a picture that I copied out of the paper. So that means an awful lot of people on the island are going to see that picture. And I suspect that the reaction is going to be, I was thinking about voting for Michael, but, you know, if he's on a chat basis with Nancy, I don't think so.
What, Maxine Waters didn't do it for you?
Yeah, Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi. I just got to label this here: Nancy versus Michael San Nicolas, or the kiss of death. Yeah. Okay, so much for Michael San Nicolas and Nancy. Next, I've got the victim versus Co. Now, you remember, Co San Nicolas is the guy who held himself out as a Cirujano, and I've explained what a Cirujano is, a local traditional healer who knows where the Amat Samoro is, how to harvest it, how to prepare it, how to prescribe it. He can be a masseuse. She, they have a spiritual healing dimension, etc. So this guy Co has told at least 2 women, you know, I'm a Cirujano. I can help you get in touch with your spirits and all that stuff. So his treatment resulted in him being prosecuted twice for rape. Now, he was found not guilty in both the rape cases, but there's a striking similarity there in the 2 cases. The Cirujano dimension, going to the cave, this massage that turns into sexual intercourse. And rape is different from any other crime for which a person could be prosecuted, because the act that constitutes rape can be consensual. And if it is, there's no rape. It's only when it's non-consensual. Now, theoretically, I suppose there could be a consensual robbery, but I don't think so, or a consensual burglary. Certainly couldn't be I guess there could be a consensual murder, but it's all, you got to reach for it. Not like rape. Rape, which is unprivileged sexual intercourse. It doesn't even have to be with a person of the opposite sex anymore. So, I talked about this a lot, and I've got the latest thing here is something that ran on KOAM News. And KOAM News published something from social media from the alleged victim, where she said Frank James San Nicolas is a serial rapist. A not guilty verdict under inherently oppressive system is an incredible disappointment. Despite the lack of surprise, all of those who support him publicly and in private perpetuate and every other rapist on Guam. KOAM News says Frank James San Nicolas no longer faces charges of criminal sexual conduct after the not guilty verdict in Superior Court on Wednesday. Since then, the alleged victim has publicly spoken out online against him. Following the not guilty verdict in the trial of San Nicolas, a Cirujano and former police officer, the alleged victim publicly took to social media expressing her devastation. The post reads, Frank James San Nicolas is a serial rapist. A non-guilty verdict under inherently oppressive system is an incredible disappointment despite the lack of surprise. All of those who support him publicly and in private perpetuate him and every other rapist on Guam. So in other words, if you like Co San Nicolas, and if you're saying hooray for Co, boy, I'm glad that it was a not guilty verdict, this victim is saying you're kind of a cheerleader for rapists. As KOAM News reported, San Nicolas was on trial for allegedly raping her at Tangeesan Beach back in May of 2020. The victim alleged she went there to connect spiritually and was approached by San Nicolas. He allegedly told her they could connect with ancestors inside of a cave, where he then allegedly raped her. And this is not the first time a woman accused him of such act. At the end of 2021, he was acquitted of raping a separate accuser, also at Tangeesan Beach, back in 2020. The alleged victim further shared how she will never trust so freely again, and he's protected by his family and local connections. She ended her post with, quote, "I am one of his many victims, and my voice will never be silenced." So, one of my comments was, where's the Suruhano community in all this? There are, I don't know if anybody ever took a census, but there are a lot of folks on the island, male and female, usually mature, older folks, that hold themselves out as Suruhanos. And I haven't heard one of them come forward and say, he's not a Suruhano, that's not what we do. I haven't heard that at all. I haven't heard any of the Chamorro culturalists come forward and say, oh, here's the cultura Chamorro, and I say, Kos and Nicholas Baba. I haven't heard that. Just nothing but silence. Like, well, I guess it's okay. So I was talking with a doctor friend of mine, an MD, somebody who went to medical school, not a Suruhano, and we chatted a little bit about Suruhanos, their effectiveness, what they can do, what they can't do. And he said that he had referred a young girl to a Suruhano and the patient got a good result. He said it was a young girl, a teenage girl, who was out in the boonies one day and necessita me naiti faisen igualods and iguala permission. She didn't do it. She just, as we say, she just peed. And she felt really bad after that, and bad enough to go to my friend for a doctor's consultation. She told him what I just mentioned, and he suggested what you need to do is go to a Suruhano and see what you must do for forgiveness. She went to a Suruhano patient privilege, so we don't know what the Suruhano said. And whatever it was that was ailing her was cured. It went away. So the power of the Suruhano. Now, cynics would say, yeah, well, she had a psychosomatic illness, but whatever. So there's certainly a place for Suruhanos, and there's been a place for Suruhanos long before Western medicine ever got to the island. And I've had more than one person tell me that, the amut that a Suruhano will give you sometimes can do things for you that Western medicine can't. I also remember a female acquaintance telling me one time that she te sin mo pot gigwe. So faisen gwe a Suruhano no ni mapopot ge. And the Suruhano gave her a massage, and sure enough, she got pregnant. So,
ask no questions, tell no lies.
Exactly, yeah. So, there's this, I think, legitimate group of people on the island called Suruhanos. It seems to me that they ought to be outraged at what Ko San Nicolas did. As an example, if we were back to the teenage girl who didn't ask for permission before she peed out in the boonies, which parent out there would want to send that daughter to Ko for counseling? Oh, yeah, well, I can help you, but we can't do it out here. We got to go to a cave. Would you send your daughter to Ko San Nicolas?
Can you shut the door behind you?
Yeah. Wow. It's just amazing how he has been tolerated with this. And I predicted, the great Karnak, the magnificent Karnak here, I'm predicting that when he gets to the Civil Service Commission, he will expect to be reinstated because he was found not guilty. He was found innocent when they took him. It was all the prosecutors' fault, man, these evil prosecutors. And a lot of folks in the community will say, oh, that's not fair. He didn't get his job back and he was not guilty. That's just not right. And I explained he wasn't fired. He wasn't fired for the rape. He was fired because because of the conditions of his release and for conduct unbecoming a police officer or a law enforcement officer. If you read about his trials and what was put on the stand under oath in his trials, that surely seems like unbecoming conduct. It's not the way I want my cop to be behaving. So I got a feeling this is not the end of Cove San Nicolas. Okay, next we have Neil Weird versus our island. And Neil, you know, I understand that Neil's over in the mainland, and when he's got free time, he likes to go to football stadiums and baseball stadiums. And what he does, he stands out in the field and looks up at the grandstand and gives eloquent speeches. Yeah, that's right. He's a grandstander. Yeah. He's the guy that was bringing the ball down the court. Somebody was open under the basket, but instead of passing the ball to him, Neil dribbled behind his back and took a 35-foot set shot, which didn't even hit the rim. But he's a good shooter, right? Well, I got a letter from Neil yesterday. He addresses me as Robert. We just posted this new online petition after the Supreme Court granted DOJ's request for more time to consider whether to support or oppose calls to overrule the insular cases. Now, if you're a tailgater, if you read the leaked decision in the Pacific Island Times, you know that the overruling of the insular cases, specifically Downs versus Bidwell, would be the worst thing that could happen to Guam. It'd be like a triple typhoon. Neil's letter to me goes on saying their new deadline is August 29th. I hope you'll consider signing the petition here and sharing what you think about the insular cases. And please share with family and friends that might be interested. The U.S. Supreme Court has granted the Biden-Harris Justice Department a request for additional time to decide whether it will support or oppose calls to overrule the insular cases. The Justice Department now has until Monday, August 29, to respond to the petition for certiorari in Fitise Manu versus U.S., a case about birthright citizenship in U.S. territories, which asks the Supreme Court in part whether the insular cases should be overruled. And I've read my decision showing you what that would sound like. The Supreme Court would say, we overrule Downs versus Bidwell and find that the revenue clauses of the United States Constitution apply in the territories. And they can go on to say, therefore, the territories are no longer property of the United States. They are integral parts of the United States. The worst thing that could happen, it sounds good, but it's the worst thing that could happen to us. If the territories are no longer property and the Constitution applies ex proprio vigere, all of the nice things that we have are gone. We're paying taxes to the IRS. No more Section 30, no more duty-free, no more GITA, etc. For the Samoans, it's the end of their way of life. No more Fa'a Samoa. And all of you self-determination bugs, no self-determination, because once Guam is an integral part of the United States, the Constitution applies, and there's no decision that's possible. The only way out of being an incorporated territory is statehood. And we know that that's practically impossible. No possibility of independence, Michael Bavacqua. But, the shiny object here, insular cases are racism, are racist. Thanks to Ann Hartori's They accused Trump of the big lie and Hattori's big lie. You know, the quote that she says runs in the insular cases, which doesn't. I just told you what the holding for the insular cases is. But Weir keeps beating this same old drum. So he, the folks, this guy, Fitisi Manu, is an American Samoan. And Weir represents every single person from American Samoa that wants birthright citizenship, which isn't available right now.
Wrong.
Every single American Samoa that wants it. All three of them live in Utah. The folks in American Samoa don't want it. The government doesn't want it. Nobody wants it but Neil Weir and the three plaintiffs he found in Utah. Okay, to respond for petition for writ of certiorari in Fatisimano, a case about birthright citizenship in U.S. territories, which asks the U.S. Supreme Court in part whether the insular cases should be overruled. The Biden-Harris Justice Department relied on the insular cases to argue before the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit that Congress has the power to deny citizenship to people born in any U.S. territory. Now, here we go again. Semantics. Did the Congress deny citizenship to people in American Samoa?
I don't think so.
No. It's the other way around. The Congress has the ability to grant birthright citizenship to a territory. It's the difference between not granting and denying, especially when nobody in American Samoa is petitioning for American citizenship. So it's not like they send in a petition with every single person in Samoa signing, and their House and their governor all saying, we want birthright citizenship. And Congress writes back and says, denied.
Denied.
There you go. Yeah.
Got stuck.
Yeah, but that's the way Neil phrases it. Keneal phrases it. Earlier this month, the Fatisimano petitioners, through lead counsel at Gibson Dunn Crutcher, sent a letter to the Solicitor General of the United States to urge the government to join petitioners asking the Supreme Court to finally and formally overturn the insular cases, noting there are overwhelming legal, policy, and moral grounds to do so. 23 members of Congress also wrote to President Biden and Vice President Harris, urging them to reject the insular cases and the racist colonial framework they invented. The racist colonial framework.
It ain't academia until you put racist and colonial in the same sentence.
Yeah, if you can't use racist, nobody's going to pay any attention to you. And I've seen stuff that Weir has written saying that 98% of the people who live in the colony, in the colonies and the territories, are people of color, which is pretty amazing since Puerto Rico has over 3 million people and 80% of Puerto Ricans identify as white. So I think Weir needs to take his calculator to the same shop in Delaware that Hunter Biden took his laptop to, and maybe they can fix it for him. A dozen civil rights groups have also called on the Justice Department to reject the insular cases and the racist assumptions they represent. Yeah, and what Weir is writing here, I may be the exception, but the ability and willingness to discuss the insular cases is inversely proportional to the time spent reading the insular cases. Not having read the insular cases gives a person much more confidence in telling you what they're about. Now, a new line petition gives people the opportunity to join in calling the Biden-Harris administration to reject the insular cases. I got to get my phone out if I can. Yeah, let's take a short break here.
Try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Okay, so here we go. Back to Keneal Weir. If you think the Biden-Harris Justice Department shouldn't be relying on the insular cases to argue people from the U.S. territories don't have the same rights as people from other parts of the United States, we'd like to hear from you, said Keneal Weir, president and founder of Equally American and co-counsel in Fitissimano versus U.S. It's simply shocking that in the year 2022, the Justice Department has yet formally condemned the insular cases which justify denying residents of U.S. territories constitutional rights because of differences of race. No, Neil Weir. You read Downs versus Bidwell. Yeah. This summer, the Biden-Harris Justice Department faces a stark choice: support or oppose calls for the Supreme Court to overrule the insular cases. Wow. It's just amazing. And the people on Guam here, you know, former Governor Gutierrez and Michael San Nicolas, who wants to be governor, think, yeah, let's overrule the insular cases because they're racist. It's amazing how easily people are taken in. Like the Civil Service Commission, next on the card. Civil Service Commission versus Mini Hatch Act. Investigation finds many Hatch Act violations were indirect and unintentional. The Civil Service Commission, after an investigation, concluded that several individuals at the Guam Behavioral Health and Wellness Center violated laws governing prohibited political activities, including the former employee whose complaint initiated the investigation. However, the violations were found to have been done indirectly. The violations were done indirectly and unintentionally.
How do you do something indirectly?
Yeah, well, I think we'll find out. And unintentionally. I didn't know that there is a mens rea dimension to Hatch Act violations. The CSC Board of Commissioners, during a post-audit investigation hearing July 19, essentially took no action on the matter, but left management and employees with a warning to keep Guam's political activities laws in mind. The complaint was filed by former Guam Behavior Health and Wellness Center employee Nicole Shotgaloff, who alleged that she received a campaign ticket at work from a human resources representative that contained a $25 King's restaurant ticket for Governor Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor's re-election campaign. That sounds like a criminal offense to me. Chargaloff said she was advised that the behavior that I'm not going to go through. I'm just going to call it mental health. You know, give an agency with a simple name something that's so long and so convoluted that no one can remember it, and then pat yourself on the back because you've reformed the agency. Chargaloff said she was advised the mental health director would collect payment for the ticket. The report ultimately concluded that all of the employees involved in the case had limited knowledge of the political activity law.
You don't say.
And stated that CSC board, now the Civil Service Commission has a board, so they must have a board here, and then in this room over here, a commission.
They meet 15 minutes after the real one starts.
First the board, then the commission.
Then the commission.
Yeah. The Civil Service Commission should determine whether the violations warranted removal or suspension for up to 30 days without pay for the employee's indirect and unintentional participation in prohibited activities. Effectively, the employees were not suspended for any misconduct, in part because of their lack of knowledge of the relevant laws and rules. And I got to stop here and say, you work for a government agency, you got to know the rules. Introducing a new word here. Let's turn on the Law and Order notebook. Chargeable. Anyone who goes to work for the government of Guam is chargeable with knowledge of the personnel rules and regulations, especially the political rules of that agency. In other words, it's your responsibility to know it. If you don't, tough. You bear the burden, not somebody else. Effectively, the employees were not suspended for any misconduct noted, in part because of their lack of knowledge of the relevant laws and rules. Now, I knew this even before I went to law school. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Mr. Klitzkie, thank you for showing me your driver's license. You were driving 55 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. Why were you doing? I didn't know that it was against the law to drive 50. Did you see the sign? Yeah, I saw the sign, but I didn't know that it was against the law to drive 55 in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. Oh, okay. Well, I apologize for pulling you over. I'm sorry. Just go ahead and go on. And when you get a chance, brush up on our traffic law. Well, wait a minute. You're probably better off if you don't brush up on your traffic laws, because if you don't know what the laws are, then no officer would ever be so bold as to write you a traffic ticket for violating the laws. All you got to do is say, I didn't know what the law was.
The Colonel Klink defense?
Exactly. Yeah.
I know nothing.
That's Schultz.
Sergeant Schultz defense.
The Sergeant Schultz defense. Colonel Hogan, I see nothing. I hear nothing. I know nothing. All right, we'll come back to Sergeant Schultz right after the bit. Well, no, because we got today is Hope's screen test. Right after Hope's screen test.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The speaker lands in Asia. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi arriving in Singapore with her congressional delegation, the first stop on her trip to Asia. Malaysia, Japan, and South Korea are also in the itinerary. The speaker didn't confirm reports that she might travel to Taiwan amid threats from China about supporting its independence. President Biden testing positive for COVID Sunday for the second straight day. He tested negative for 4 consecutive days last week before testing positive Saturday in what medical experts call a rebound positive. Fox's Griff Jenkins reports at the White House.
We got a letter from the president's doctor, Kevin O'Connor, who says he's continuing to feel well. He's maintaining strict isolation measures. And the doctor adding this, quote, the president continues to be very specifically conscientious to protect any of the executive residents, White House, Secret Service, and other staff whose duties require any proximity to him.
At least 28 people have been killed by flash floods in eastern Kentucky. The state's governor, Andy Beshear, told NBC's Meet the Press Sunday what's likely to follow.
With the level of water, we're going to be finding bodies for weeks. Many of them swept hundreds of yards, maybe quarter-mile plus from where they were lost. Thus far, just those 4 children. I fear that we'll find at least a couple more.
With this proposed slimmed-down version of the Build Back Better bill that will add billions of dollars to fight climate change and subsidize health care, among other provisions, Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia discusses why his legislation won't raise people's taxes.
All we're doing is basically saying the largest corporations in America that have $1 billion of value or greater have to pay a minimum of 15% to help this great country.
Republicans say the bill will make the inflation crisis even worse. America is listening to Fox News.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
We're already Pika's best radio station, but we're always looking for ways to be even better. Announcing the point on Alexa. In addition to our FM and HD radio feeds, our incredible app, informative website, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, you can now tell Alexa to stream The Point. And your smart speaker will start playing whatever we're saying. News and views 24/7 with your 4-word command. Alexa, stream The Point.
NBA legend Bill Russell died Sunday at the age of 88. Fox's Charles Watson has more from Atlanta.
Russell was widely considered the greatest champion in all of sports. His list of accomplishments are vast, winning 11 championships and 5 MVP awards in his 13-year career with the Boston Celtics. Born on February 12, 1934, Russell grew up in a heavily segregated Louisiana. He battled racism in basketball and America. In Boston, a city where he was not embraced in the same way as white players, he spoke up often about treatment of black players, and he was front and center at the height of the civil rights movement.
John Benet Ramsey's father pleading for more advanced DNA testing to help solve her murder. Fox's Laura Ingle has the report.
The frustration of searching for his daughter's killer is still painful for John Ramsey, who tells me he is preparing to submit a petition to Colorado Governor Jared Polis next week to put DNA testing decisions in the hands of a new agency outside the Boulder Police Department.
The latest technology exists in the Parabon labs and the Lothrops and those really cutting-edge laboratories that are using state-of-the-art techniques to analyze DNA samples. That's where this needs to go.
If government officials do not respond after the petition is submitted, Ramsey says he will absolutely seek legal action.
A hiker dies in freezing conditions in New Hampshire.
It's happened again. Tragedy at Mount Washington in New Hampshire. A group of hikers found a man Saturday afternoon unconscious and not breathing. Efforts to resuscitate failed. A rescue group then carried the hiker's body nearly a mile in freezing temperatures and high winds to the famous Cog Railway. A dog hiking with the man is at an animal shelter waiting to be reunited with family.
That's Fox's Ann Carrick. I'm Laura Cantor, and this is Fox News.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill.
Located at 154 Iriarty Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
Joyce Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning Mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
Half a day. Patsy Gogri from Security Title here with information about what a title company does. The title side of our business determines who owns a property and guarantees your ownership with a title insurance policy. The escrow side acts as an independent third party, managing the transfer of money and documents between the buyer, seller, lenders, and others. Security Title has a management of real estate closings down to a science. Give us a call. We are here to help.
Okay, here we are after another big halftime show here on Tall Tales. They get better and better every week. And next item on the agenda here today is Hope Cristobal's screen test. We keep thinking that if the right person in Hollywood gets a hold of this, Hope will have to go to Hollywood and will appear in movies. I'll let you decide what kind of movie she'll be appearing in. So go ahead and run it, Jose.
You're nothing but a white colonizer. That's who you are. Colonization. The same thing as slow murder. You're a murderer. That's who you are. Get off my island.
Sir, you need to go. You can't be policing people here and telling people how to protest and what to protest for. You need to go. You need to go. I'm against this. That's cool, but you cannot be policing people and telling them how to protest and what to advocate for. She has a right to go.
I'm an indigenous Chamorro. I have more rights here than you are. You came here because of the structures of colonialism, asshole. Tayo mamalaw how sige juju gitano bitaw taw tanu how wahu bini taw tanu wahu bini madahoga wahu restaurant na kay gizu bini hago taza restaurant mo bini you need to leave.
You need to go.
Please.
You need to get out of here.
Please pause it.
Get out of here.
Please.
When I get a chance, go.
Please. Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Please leave. No, you think
What happened, man?
Well, he confronted me.
What did he say?
Telling me I shouldn't be here. I support Black Lives Matter. It's part of the colonialistic systemic racism. And I came here to support these people. He's a white man that has come here. And he continues the legacy of colonialism. He continues to fight people, individuals, my goodness. I'm a former senator. I authored the Commission on Decolonization organization, Karoho, Hai Mamalo.
We are proud of you, Auntie.
Si Diyos mangasi.
Be safe.
Yeah, so there you have it. Spreading a little sunshine wherever she goes. The mere fact that he's here means he's spreading systemic racism and colonialism. So I guess no matter where I go or what I'm doing, that's me. You know, I am a white man that has come here because of the structures of colonialism. Yeah.
I'm wondering, after usually celebrities or minor B-list, C-list, D-list celebrities make a commotion, but they've won an award, they have to return the award or something happens. I wonder if she's going to have to return her, what do they call it, the MAGA
Award. Yeah, the
Award.
Governor recognized her for being such an outstanding citizen.
I mean, I doubt it.
I
this is going to get ignored.
I suspect, yeah. Well, we could take it to the Civil Service Commission. Yeah, because she didn't know, you know. So there's an article in the May Pacific Island Times that I usually read to give you some idea of what hope is all about. Hope says, this article says, this is by Johanna Salinas, and about Hope Cristobal, first and foremost a nurturer. If Hope is a nurturer, well, what do you think the poisoners would be like? And this is what the article says in part. As an activist, Cristobal is not afraid of confrontation. At the Black Lives Matter rally in Agana last year, there were counter-protesters harassing us. That's what you just saw. The counter-protesters harassing Hope Cristobal.
The one that was trying to walk away?
Yeah, the guy with the water bottle. Yeah. She says, I wasn't afraid. There are always people out there who will challenge you. These are just a part of the journey. It can be hard because I'm an educator. I went to the Black Lives Matter rally because I want to show my support for oppressed people. like the poor guy with the water bottle. Yeah. I follow the news and I'm aware that innocent people are getting killed because of their skin color. We need to see each other beyond the color of our skin. He's a white man. He doesn't have the same rights here as she's an indigenous Chamorro. Yeah, it's amazing. Johanna Salas, you need to get into a different line of work if you're going to put stuff like this down on paper. Apparently you know what color the rice is, Johanna. That rice is red. I don't care what anybody says, it's red. Okay, on to another travesty. This is the Civil Service Commission. This is the Civil Service Commission dealing with a complaint by Nicole Chotgaloff, who worked at mental health, was given a ticket for a fundraiser for Lou and Josh, told that the director would be collecting the money for the trip for the fundraiser. And so she filed a complaint with the Civil Service Commission. Yeah, the complaint was filed by former mental health employee Nicole Chotgaloff, who alleged that she received a campaign ticket at work from a human resources representative that contained a $25 King's Restaurant ticket for Lou and Josh re-election campaign. Chotgaloff said she was advised that the mental health director would collect payment for the ticket. The report ultimately concluded that all of the employees involved in the case had limited knowledge of the political activity law and stated that the CSC board should determine whether the violations warranted removal for up to 30 days without pay for the employees' indirect and unintentional participation in prohibited activities. Distributing tickets is an indirect.
It seems like this was the prosecutor was acting as a defense attorney.
Exactly. Effectively, the employees were not suspended for any misconduct noted in part because of the lack of knowledge of the relevant laws and rules. Chargaloff held an unclassified position and resigned shortly after the incident. I don't blame her. The investigative report details interviews with various individuals. They include Chargaloff, Chris Duenas, identified as a human resource representative, the alleged peddler of the tickets, indirectly, of course.
Wait, HR was the one giving out the tickets?
Yeah.
Oh,
But he didn't know what the rules were.
that's his duty to know rules like that.
Exactly, yeah. Clarissa Pangilinan, the mental health deputy director and aunt of Jamie Pangilinan, I guess that's important, I don't know why. Jesse Libby, Chargaloff supervisor, and mental health director Teresa Areola. CSD staff learned from Duenas that he obtained tickets from an organization in his village and that no one, not even the director, instructed him to pass out the tickets. He reportedly approached Chargaloff with a ticket because he considered her a close friend and a friend of the administration and didn't think he'd rat her out. He'd rat him out. She'd rat him out. Yeah, beep, beep. That's why he approached her, right? He also stated that he did not tell Chargaloff the director would be collecting payment for the tickets. Chargaloff must have just made that up and make it a better story. According to the investigation report, Chargaloff stated that Jamie Pangilinan said the director and deputy director told her to make Chargaloff understand why she had a job, even if it cost them their friendship. Chargaloff stated that Jamie Pangilinan said the director and deputy director told her to make Chargaloff understand why she had a job, even if it cost them their friendship. So the accusation is that Chargaloff, who is the niece of the deputy director, were supposed to tell Chargaloff, you know why you got a job here? And even if you know, then you better pay for those tickets.
The niece of the deputy director is Jamie Pangilinan.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. According to the investigation report, Chargaloff stated that after being informed by Jamie Pangilinan on February 22 that Areola was going to collect funds for campaign tickets and that only Chargaloff was missing, Chargaloff ultimately took Jamie Pangilinan's $25 and gave it to Duenas to pay for the ticket. Chargaloff took Jamie Pangilinan's $25. Strange. Is that the indirect aspect here? But during her own interview, Jamie Pangilinan denied that the director or deputy director instructed her to tell Chargaloff that she would have to pay for the fundraising ticket. CSC staff told Chargaloff her statements regarding management were not being corroborated.
You don't say. Wow. That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. No, I never said that. Oh, well, I guess we'd probably better start thinking about unsworn falsification or perjury then for Chargaloff, right?
Oh, that's a good question. Do they have to take an oath when they're giving these statements?
One would think so. CSC staff told Chargaloff her statements regarding management were not being corroborated. Chargaloff reportedly became upset, stating she knew this would happen. And she was right.
And so do all of us.
And so does everybody who heard this story. The report noted that the interview with Chargaloff was conducted via Zoom and the connection dropped mid-interview.
It gets better.
Boy. Staff members sent an email to Chargoloff asking whether the virtual meeting could be reestablished, but she advised them that she did not want to participate any further and did not provide additional names or evidence for the investigation. They couldn't do this in person.
No, and apparently, and it's a good thing Chargoloff has a kangaroo court detector in her.
Exactly.
I wouldn't participate anymore either.
Exactly. Areola told CSC staff that she was aware of the fundraising ticket because she had her own tickets, which she passed out to family and friends. But the director stated she was unaware of any fundraising tickets being sold or passed out in the office, and that she never passed out paid or unpaid tickets to anyone at Mental Health. Both Areola and Calista Pangilinan also denied they instructed Jamie Pangilinan to have Chargoloff pay for the fundraising ticket. During the course of the interview, CSC staff also engaged employees' knowledge of political activities laws. The Mini-Hatch Act lays out a number of permitted and prohibited political activities with which government employees, with certain exceptions, must comply. Asking them the question if they knew the political activity that was my main concern, personnel management analyst Maria Maznayan said at the investigation hearing. Asking them the question if they knew the political activity, that was my main concern. I think what you're trying to say, political activity law. This is Maria Maznayan, a faceless bureaucrat at the Civil Service Commission. She's telling you what her main concern was. Did you know what the law was? Maznayan prepared the investigation report for the CSC. A lot of them had different definitions of what political activity was, so they were not well versed in the law. There are so many laws on Guam that a lot of employees don't know. For them to not know the political activity, I mean, as a new employee or an employee that has been there for so many years, you're not going to read everything Maznayan added.
Wow. And this is not like a summary. This is a direct quote.
Exactly. Yeah. The investigation determined that Chargoloff, Duenas, Jamie Pangilinan, and Libby each violated the prohibited activities provisions in some way. Even Chargoloff. Even the complainant.
Oh, that was the indirect.
Yeah. Areola was present at the July 19 hearing. There were questions asked during the hearing about training, and Areola said department officials go over many things when bringing new employees on board, including the Mini-Hatch Act, but not extensively. And that is something, probably in light of the season, is something that all agencies should do because it's a seasonal thing and maybe go in more depth, Areola said, adding she thinks the employees involved believe they could approach people in a government facility because of their friendship. Now we need to emphasize, even with friendship, you need to be very careful and not put political activity in a government agency. But you can imagine when everybody's friends, you don't limit your conversations. There's a blurring line.
Yeah, and that's where people get in trouble with the law. You don't make excuses for blurred lines.
So we just shouldn't have any line at all. Yeah. Two solutions. No line at all. No more restrictions on political activity, or forbid employees to have friends in the agency. One of the two.
And lower expectations for people.
Exactly. Since Chargoloff is no longer at Mental Health, the CSC board voted to take no action against her.
Okay, is this Babylon B?
This is not Babylon B. I think we ought to send it off. If there's no copyright restriction here, we ought to send it off to Babylon B. Commissioner Robert Titano agreed with the investigation's conclusion, but motioned for 5 days suspension for Duenas. And that's a slap on the wrist for what he did.
The HR guy.
The HR guy who didn't know the rules. However, Chair Juan Calvo, Vice Chair Anthony Benavente, and Commissioner John Smith.
Anonymous.
Isn't John Alden in there somewhere? John Smith wanted to take no action. The CSC needed 4 votes to adopt an action, and without that, no action was taken regardless. Commissioners voted unanimously to take no action for the remaining employees. Before concluding the hearing, Chargaloff said the CSC needed to send a message to management. Before concluding the hearing, Calvo said the CSC needed to send a message to management at every agency to pay attention to Guam's political activity laws. Calvo, that's exactly what you did. You sent the message. And the message is this: come before the commission and say, they were my friends and I didn't know the law. Okay, I'm sorry to bother you. We should have done this. We shouldn't make you take leave to come up here.
Which makes Areola's last message apropos. Areola said the message was loud and clear.
It was.
No kidding.
Exactly. The mini-hatch governs political activities for government employees. It outlines a number of permitted and prohibited activities. Specific activities in which employees are prohibited include discharging, promoting, demoting, or changing compensation, etc., or threatening to do so because other employee advocates or fails to advocate through contribution, voting, or otherwise a candidate. There are exceptions to the definition of employee under the law, such as those holding elected office. But whether or not someone is considered an employee, no person can solicit, receive a contribution, or distribute literature for political purposes in any room or building occupied in discharge of official duties by any person employed by GovGuam. Violating this section of law is a misdemeanor. So Duenas committed a misdemeanor. But I suspect that you don't need to indict for a misdemeanor. You can do it with a magistrate's complaint. But I expect that no assistant attorney general would draw one up because Duenas would have an absolute defense. I didn't know what the law was. Oh, okay, not guilty. Out of here.
And I would wager that the only reason why I hear about this is because Chargaloff was probably one of the rare that would say something about this. How many other departments have people too afraid to say anything or speak out about the activity going on in their department?
And if they were afraid then, they certainly...
Definitely afraid now.
Yeah, they certainly will now.
Message loud and clear.
Exactly. Okay, next item on the card is kind of same, different group, but cut from the same cloth. Let's head for Wrigley Field, and we'll come back to this one.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Joyce Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapow, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-RDIO.
Let Choice Broadcasting bring your message to our masses.
Okay, here we are, Churchill, as you were, Wrigley Field in Chicago, world's most beautiful ballpark. It means I only got 2 more innings before the end of this episode of Tall Tales. So next I've got the ethics panel again. This is the House of Representatives ethics panel. the guys that really had it out for Michael San Nicolas gigged him for not showing up for an appearance where he was not be able to bring counsel. They spent 2 years on it. They weren't able to come to any conclusion, etc., except a lot of really scurrilous language about Michael San Nicolas, which, of course, the other side has picked up and run with. Now they're back in action again. Ethics panel declines action against lawmakers arrested at Supreme Court. The House Ethics Committee will not investigate or seek to punish lawmakers arrested outside the Supreme Court last week during protests against a decision in Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization. The panel dismissed any further action on the matter of the 17 members of Congress being arrested on charges of crowding, obstructing, or incommoding during the protest, according to Press as you report Friday. And going on, the committee voted against impaneling an investigative committee in this report. The report says the committee considered the scope and nature of the conduct described above and determined that review by an investigative subcommittee is not required in this matter. The committee is determined to take no further action in this matter. Upon publication of this report, considers the matter closed. They didn't even refer it to the Justice Committee. I wonder if those guys know, what's his name? The guy that used to work for Madeline.
It starts with an H. Can't remember his name. He's that memorable.
Yeah, I think I got it here somewhere. The report also said the House members arrested had paid or would pay the $50 fine levied against them for blocking traffic outside the Supreme Court while protesting the Supreme Court overruling Roe v. Wade with the ruling in Dobbs last month. The 17 lawmakers arrested during the protests include Alma Adams, Cori Bush, Catherine Clark, Madeline Dean, I guess she made the dean's list, Veronica Escobar, Sarah Jacobs, Barbara Lee, Andy Levin, Carolyn Maloney, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, so we got the squad, Jan Chakowski, Jackie Spear, Rashida Tlaib, the last member of the squad, Nydia Malaskas, and Barbara Watson Coleman. So stopping here and reminding you what happened. 17 members of the House went to the steps of the court or the front porch of the United States Supreme Court and blocked people trying to get into the court. They put on a demonstration, and they were all arrested. They were all put on misdemeanor arrests. Now, is it ethical for a member of Congress to go and conduct himself or herself in such a manner that he has committed a crime to protest the action of another branch of the United States government? Obviously, if that is not unethical, then there's no such thing as ethics. But it's pretty clear now to see, looking at the way they dealt with St. Nicholas and then the way they deal with other members of the House, ethics has absolutely nothing to do with what they do and what they see their mission is.
Nothing.
No, it's the old, when you have power, the reason that you have, what you must do if you have power, you must reward your friends and punish your enemies. If you can't do that, why bother why seeking power?
You know, what's really silly is how ignorant these lawmakers are with the fact that they are protesting a branch that just gave their branch the power to do something.
Yeah.
So who are they protesting? Themselves? And what makes them think that the Supreme Court works that way? This is just basic ignorance and a big show. I don't want to say what kind of show it is because I'll get bleeped, but it was a S show. It is indeed. It's a dog and pony show, and the reason they did it is they wanted to, they're back in front of the grandstand again. They got what they wanted. They got their name in the paper. They got their picture on all the news shows, and AOC is going to be able to say, I stood up for women's rights. I stood up for the right to choose. I even got arrested. Did you see that picture of me in handcuffs? Well, sort of in handcuffs. Maybe she used to be a mime.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing they unintentionally did was they invalidated and brought the credibility down of the ethics committee.
If that's possible.
If that's possible.
Yeah. The U.S. Capitol Police said officers had made 35 arrests in total during the protest, all having to do with violating laws against crowding, obstructing, or incommoding. Ocasio-Cortez made headlines when she crossed her arms behind her back as she was escorted away in a moment caught on video, prompting critics to accuse her of faking that she'd been placed in handcuffs for a photo op.
She's done that before, Bob.
Has she?
Remember when she went down to the border and was at a fence crying like she was crying in front of cages full of kids?
That's right.
And then the wide shot showed her crying in front of an empty lot.
In front of a parking lot, yeah. The congressman insisted she wasn't pretending to be in handcuffs during her arrest. Quote, no faking here, Ocasio-Cortez said in a tweet. Putting your hands behind your back is a best practice while detained, handcuffed or not, to avoid escalating charges like resisting arrest. Wrong. Putting your hands behind your back could get you shot because you may have a firearm stuck in your belt behind you. Cops want to see your hands. That's why they say, hands up. What a... But, you know, she has found the formula. She went from an obscure bartender in the Bronx to a national celebrity now. And if for some reason she is not reelected, it won't matter because she'll become a millionaire. Her face and her reputation will guarantee that she'll be a big money earner for a long, long time. And it really brings you back to Winston Churchill and when he says, democracy is really a bad form of government, except it's better than all the rest. When you see somebody like AOC thriving in her democratic form of government, you got to wonder, isn't there a better way of doing this than that? Yeah. Putting your hands behind your back is a best practice while detained, handcuffed or not, to avoid escalating charges like resisting arrest. But given how you lied about a fellow rape survivor for points as you put it to me, I don't expect much else from you. That's what Ocasio-Cortez told the reporter in this story from the Washington Examiner. Yeah, so I wonder if the Civil Service Commission and the House Ethics Commission could do an exchange program. They seem to both have the same MO. They could perhaps learn from one another, right? Okay, next I've got Vanessa versus the Democrat Party. And Vanessa Williams, once again, just to help you remember who Vanessa Williams is, this is what she said. It's impossible to separate our choice of whether and when to have children from every other choice in our lives, whether to go on vacation, take a new job, move, whatever. Democrat Party's attorney posts sample ballot with 12 candidates' names crossed out. That's candid news. I'll start out with the post. A social media post shared further than intended has led the attorney of the Democrat Party to step away from her position. Sunday afternoon, Vanessa Williams publicly announced she was resigning from the position following criticism of her posting a photo with the names of 12 Democrat candidates crossed out. Williams said she posted the photo after requests from family and friends who she thought would join her in advocating against anti-equality legislation. Anti-equality legislation.
This article is wrought with euphemisms.
It is. So what anti-equality legislation, does this have something to do with sex discrimination or race discrimination? No.
Nope.
How are these 12 people possibly in favor of anti-equality legislation, Jose?
I don't know. We'll find out.
I guess the context will tell us later on. But just draw a string around your brain there for anti-equality legislation. I shared this with friends yesterday, and it has come to my attention that others have mischaracterized that as an official position by the Democrat Party, she stated. It is not. I guess she went to the same communications class that Maria Masnayan went to up at the Civil Service Commission. The cross-out list, according to Williams, is her, quote, personal observation of candidates she believes would support legislation such as Bill 291, also known as the Heartbeat Act, which aims to limit abortions on Guam. Oh, anti-equality. That if women, let's see, how would this work now? Men have the ability to kill as many babies as they want to, so therefore women should have the ability. No, that can't be it. No. That just doesn't make any sense at all. So where's the anti-equality dimension here? If women can't kill the babies, does that mean that the baby is more equal than a woman?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I don't know. Anti-equality legislation. I got to remember that. I'm going to make sure I note that here under the great announcements. That's a mouthful. The crossed-out list, according to Williams, is her personal observation. Reports show that Guam has the second highest, quote, reports show that Guam has the second highest rate of sexual assault in the United States. Statistically, our children are more likely to be sexually assaulted than virtually every other place in the country, meaning children in Guam as young as 8, 9, and 10 years old are more likely to be impregnated against their will than anywhere else in the country. So the solution is here. Kill them in the womb. That way they won't be impregnated when they're 8 or 9 or 10. Wow. It's just amazing.
Oh, the logic gets better.
She said, adding that Bill 291 would do nothing to address the problem, which she called a crisis for our entire community, regardless of party.
Well, you know, Bob, to your explanation or to your understanding, is she saying 291 does nothing to address the problem, in which the problem is the sexual assault, or the problem is the impregnation, the possible impregnation? Which is the problem?
The impregnation.
Mm.
Yeah. It
Okay.
does nothing.
And that point, I'll agree with her, because it's not meant to do anything about that.
Exactly.
There are different laws that do that,
And-
not 291.
But her frame is so easy to understand. Bad things happen to kids. So the way we prevent bad things happening to kids is to kill them. We save them from that.
That's what she should have said.
And that's exactly what she is saying in so many words. She has a way with words here, talking about killing a child in vitro as laws prohibiting the killing of a child in vitro as anti-equality legislation. She really has a way with words. Lawyers are supposed to be really good with words. That's what lawyers, that's their tools, right? I suppose I should take up the same cudgel that I want the Cirujanos to take up against Coe. How dare you do this if you're a lawyer? You're going to give all lawyers a bad name here, Vanessa. She says, I have resigned as counsel for the Democrat Party so I may focus on continue to be an advocate for all people who can get pregnant. All people who can get pregnant.
Well, that's equal.
All people who can get pregnant. So in addition to her other virtues, she's also apparently woke. All people who can get pregnant, and against this health and equality crisis that plagues our island. Wow. I got a feeling that the folks back there in the headquarters of the Democrat Party are saying, yeah, you want out? Go ahead, Vanessa. Don't let the door hit you in the butt on your way out.
You resigned because we asked you to.
Yeah. The Guam Daily Post reached out to multiple candidates who were a part of Williams' social media post, but only received a response from non-incumbent Chris Barnett. It's sad that I'm not shocked by this latest attack from within our party leadership, he told the Post. He's not shocked, but it's sad. Williams' resignation was the right thing to do since she crossed the ethical line of her duties to the party and lost the trust of those she publicly tried to cancel. I'll just keep working hard because I know that our voters don't need people in power to make up their minds for them. So I could see why they canceled Chris Barnett. And I have a feeling that the graybeards, the wiser heads, the powers behind the throne, the guys in the smoke-filled room are saying, I hope that Barnett guy loses. You know why? Because they won't be able to control him. He'll be another Mike San Nicolas. I'm going to do what I think is best for the people. Party schmarty. Don't come to me with any of this party stuff. So it's not, I'm not shocked either that he was one of the ones that she attacked. Barnett, he said he was running under the Democrat Party banner because he believes his grassroots campaign connects with residents. I refuse to let politics get in the way of that, Barnett said. Williams was frank about the criticism she's seen that she feels amounts to unsubstantiated ethical allegations. Well, we got to find out if there's substantial evidence here, right? As an advocate, I will not get sidetracked from advocated for equality and the unqualified right to health care, ideals that align with the official Democrat Party platform. I sincerely hope all aspiring legislators focus on the issues. Wow.
That's interesting, Bob, that she declared this the official Democrat Party platform.
Exactly.
Do all the pro-life Democrats understand this? That they're running on a platform of pro-abortion?
Well, if they don't understand it, no one will be able to punish them because they didn't know.
Is the Democrat Party going to counter that, or are they going to allow it to go?
Good question. When asked by the Post if she had any thoughts to share with residents in similar positions who may be anxious about reactions or repercussions of their personal political views, she said residents need to be aware of the realities. Voicing your vote is a very personal choice, like abortion. It's not very personal for her, is it? She wants to spread it wherever she goes.
It's like any other choice.
Yeah. And no one should be prohibited nor punished for it either. That said, the reality is no politician is perfect. They are just people too, and sometimes they take your position on the issues personally instead of as a citizen addressing their elected representative. So when I'm passionate about certain issues, I try to be clear that my opinion is due to those issues and represent my personal beliefs. However, we can't control how others perceive or try to spin it. There's not much spinning necessary here, Vanessa. So just be aware that can and will happen, especially with the ease of social media. Williams shared, clarifying her statement to the Post was her personal perspective. Well, there's just so much here, you know. Yeah, let's head for Churchill Downs. I'm probably going to have to bring this back tomorrow, which is good because there's a lot of meat here.
Bring it. Boss 104, The Point, and Star 101 are bringing you back to the 80s and 90s throwdown at the Hermit Crab Beach Bar and Grill in Antigua this Saturday, August 6th.
Come down and get on the dance floor as I, DJ Daryl Lazama, get on the turntables, giving you the best of the 80s, 90s, and more.
Star 101, The Point, and Boss 104 will be in the house.
Yo, DJ, pump it up some more.
Plus, we have all kinds of cool stuff to give to you.
Free food giveaways,
buckets of beer,
T-shirts, and hourly cash prizes.
For the 90s throwdown dance off.
Get back to the 80s and 90s throwdown at the Hermit Crab Beach Bar and Grill in Antigua behind Circle K Beachside this Saturday, August 6th.
The party is from 8 p.m. to midnight, so come down and get your groove on.
Special thanks to Lolita Cabot of Holiday Realty and JV International. The 80s and 90s throwback this Saturday at the Hermit Crab Beach Bar and Grill. Party starts at about 8 p.m. See you there.
Yeah, here we are at the home stretch here. The guy's name was Matt Herman. Yeah, Matt Herman. The guy who helped fill Leon Guerrero out with his story. Matt Herman. Okay, so here we are, Churchill Downs, 7 more minutes, and I'm wrapping up another episode of Tall Tales. So there's just so much in this one story. First of all, let me give a little instructions here. So if you're listening today, you're not going to be able to say, oh, I didn't know that. If you have a position of prominence, a position that causes your name to appear in the paper or on TV or something like that, and you express an opinion, that opinion is going to be attributed to the agency that you work for. This Angel Sablon, well, yeah, I testified in favor of Mayor Blas, but in my personal capacity, not as the executive director of the Mayor's Council.
Wrong.
or Vanessa Williams. These are just my personal choices. I'm not making those choices as counsel for the party. You can't do that. Don't even think you can do that. Whatever comes out of your mouth when you're in one of those situations is attributed back to the agency that you work for. Vanessa really did a number on the Democrat Party. She really helped them out, didn't she? And if she's really in favor of equality, and by the way, I think maybe Bonnie might have solved it for us. Let's see here. Yeah, Bonnie says, in other words, her anti-equality legislation is about claiming transgender men can have an abortion or transgender women, and that's why she talks of all people getting pregnant. So there's the equality. She not only wants a woman to be able to get an abortion on demand for any reason or no reason, she wants men to have the same right. And if they can't, it's not equality, by gosh. Yeah, so Vanessa, you use the term anti-equality, and what happens is you make it really easy for speculators and stand-up comedians to make fun of you. You are counsel for the Democrat Party, whether you're awake or asleep, driving home, at the movies, whatever. You're counsel, and whatever comes out of your mouth is Democrat Party. The Candid did a workup on it, and I'll go to that next. I have a feeling it's going to be in the news for a couple days. Democrat Party's attorney posts sample ballot with 12 candidates' names crossed out. The sample ballot she encourages voters to use crosses out the gubernatorial team of San Nicolas and Montanani, Michael and Sabrina, and congressional candidates Talina Nelson. Their names are crossed out. Talina is pretty easy. Talina introduced the Heartbeat Act. Michael's pretty easy. Michael says he's anti-abortion. On the senatorial side, Williams crossed out the names of 9 of 21. The names she crossed out are Speaker Therese Tetlahi. Now, I don't know where Therese is on this one.
I think she's more on the pro-choice side.
Yeah. But she's also on the Leon Guerrero hates her side.
Mm-hmm.
So
you know what it was? Is she allowed the public hearing to go on when they were requesting a roundtable. That's why she's getting the heat.
That's why. So you have to figure that, I don't know if Vanessa is Leon Guerrero's cat's paw or not, but I would suspect that she knows who the governor wants to see reelected and who not. You've got Jonathan Savaris, who I think is the son of the mayor of Dededo. That's good politics. There aren't very many voters in Dededo.
But she is very pro-life. That might be a retaliation.
Okay. You've got Chris Barnett. Senator Joe St. Augustine. Senator Amanda Shelton, who was also anti-abortion. John Ananich, Dave Duenas, Franklin Bunker Mano, and Armando Dominguez. These are the names that were crossed out. Now, if I were any of those folks, I would wear that like a badge. I did not make Vanessa's list. Vote for me. And I'd make a copy of this, and I'd incorporate it into my campaign literature. This is the Vanessa marked up ballot. Because I think she really did those folks a favor. There may be pro-lifers in the Democrat Party that'll come over to them. Okay,
I did not know who Armando Dominguez was, and now I'm going to find out.
Exactly. Okay, we got to go, so it's time for me to say goodbye. Let's go, Brandon.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The Asian tour begins. I'm Laura Cantor, Fox News. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and her congressional delegation landing in Singapore. Other stops in the itinerary include Malaysia, Japan, and South Korea, with no mention of Taiwan. The trip comes after China warned the U.S. about supporting Taiwan's independence. Fox's Griff Jenkins has more from the White House.
Taiwan located right between the announced stops. Meanwhile, the USS Ronald Reagan and its strike group has moved into the South China Sea, with the Pentagon not commenting on ship movements, as the administration has not explicitly advised Pelosi to avoid Taiwan, but they are reassuring Beijing that long-standing one China policy has not changed in any way.
President Biden tested positive for COVID Sunday for the second day in a row. White House physician Dr. Kevin O'Connor said the president continues to feel well and will remain in isolation. Medical experts say the president is undergoing a rebound effect after being treated with the antiviral drug Paxlovid. President Biden was first diagnosed with COVID on July 21st. Flash floods killing at least 28 people in eastern Kentucky. On Saturday, Hazard, Kentucky resident Eunice Howard spoke about how fast the floodwaters destroyed her home.
Within 10 to 12 minutes, I heard a noise and I raised the window and I seen the water and I knew I had to get out of there.
24-year-old Indiana police officer and Army veteran Noah Chavez was fatally shot while conducting a traffic stop early Sunday morning. Chief Deputy Prosecutor of Madison County, Andrew Hanna, says formal charges against the suspect will be filed Monday.
After reviewing all of the evidence and discussions with the family and all those involved, we will make a determination as to whether we seek the death penalty in this case.
America's listening to Fox News.
Get all of your favorite Fox News podcasts ad-free on Apple Podcasts with Fox News Podcasts Plus. From Trey Gowdy, the Fox News Rundown, Will Kane, Brian Kilmeade, and so much more. Go to Fox